The Ghostly Bride of Gibraltar. Point Lighthouse, Toronto's haunted legend. The Gibraltar Point Lighthouse, nestled on the Toronto Islands and overlooking the waters of Lake Ontario, is the oldest lighthouse on the Great Lakes and one of Toronto's most enduring landmarks. Built in 1808, the lighthouse served as a vital navigational aid for ships traveling through the often treacherous waters surrounding the city. But the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse is known for more than just its history and architectural beauty. It has long been the subject of one of Toronto's most famous ghost stories, the tale of the Ghostly Bride. For over 2 centuries, the lighthouse has been the source of mysterious sightings, eerie sounds, and ghostly apparitions, particularly that of a woman believed to be a bride who met a tragic end. The legend of the Ghostly Bride has captivated locals, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike, and it remains one of the city's most chilling and mysterious tales. The history of Gibraltar Point Lighthouse. Before delving into the ghost story itself, it's important to understand the rich history of the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse. Built in 1808, the lighthouse stands on the westernmost tip of the Toronto Islands, originally serving as a beacon for ships navigating Lake Ontario. The tower, constructed from limestone and standing over 52 feet tall, was an essential guide for mariners, especially during foggy nights and winter storms when the lake's waters could become treacherous. The first lighthouse keeper was a man named John Paul Radlmuller, a German immigrant who served as the keeper of Gibraltar Point Lighthouse for several years. His duties included maintaining the light, which was powered by whale oil, and ensuring that it was always visible to ships passing by. Radlmuller lived in a small cottage near the lighthouse and was well known among the locals and sailors in the area. Despite its practical use as a navigational aid, the lighthouse's remote location, isolated from the city by the waters of Lake Ontario, gave it an eerie, lonely atmosphere. Over the years, the island surrounding the lighthouse became a place of mystery, with various tales of strange occurrences and ghostly sightings being passed down through generations. The tragic tale of the Ghostly Bride. The legend of the Ghostly Bride at Gibraltar Point Lighthouse is one of Toronto's most famous ghost stories, though like many ghost tales it has evolved over time, blending fact and fiction in a way that has kept it alive for centuries. According to the most popular version of the story, the Ghostly Bride was a young woman who was either set to be married or had recently been wed when she met her tragic end. Some versions say that she was the wife of a sailor who was lost at sea, while others claim that she was jilted by her fiancé on their wedding day. Regardless of the specific details, the core of the legend revolves around her untimely death and the belief that her spirit continues to haunt the lighthouse, eternally searching for her lost love. In one version of the tale, the bride-to-be was waiting at the lighthouse for her groom, a sailor who was supposed to return from a long voyage. She stood at the top of the lighthouse every evening, watching the horizon for any sign of his ship. Days turned into weeks and then into months, but the ship never arrived. Heartbroken and filled with despair, the bride is said to have either thrown herself from the top of the lighthouse or wandered into the lake, where she drowned in her grief. Another version of the story suggests that the bride was murdered by her lover or another man in a fit of rage. According to this version, her body was hidden somewhere on the island or buried near the lighthouse, and her restless spirit has roamed the area ever since, unable to find peace. The ghostly sightings. Over the years, many people have reported seeing the ghost of the bride near the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse, particularly on foggy or stormy nights when the lake's waters are especially tumultuous. Witnesses often describe her as a pale, spectral figure dressed in a long white gown, standing on the shore or at the base of the lighthouse, staring out at the lake as if waiting for someone to return. Some accounts describe the ghost as appearing to be in mourning, her head bowed as she gazes out over the water. Others claim that she can be seen climbing the lighthouse stairs or standing on the top balcony, looking out at the horizon. In all versions of the sighting, she is described as a lonely, sorrowful figure, forever searching for the lost love that never returned. Visitors to the island have also reported hearing strange, disembodied sounds near the lighthouse. The most common of these is the sound of a woman sobbing, which seems to echo across the water, though no one is ever found nearby. Other reports include the sound of footsteps on the lighthouse stairs, or the creaking of doors and windows, even when the building is empty. The murder of John Paul Radlmuller, a different tragedy. While the legend of the Ghostly Bride is the most famous haunting associated with the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse, the site is also tied to a true crime story that may have contributed to its haunted reputation. The lighthouse's first keeper, John Paul Radlmuller, met a tragic and violent end in 1815, and his death has become the subject of both historical intrigue and paranormal speculation. Radlmuller was known to have sold alcohol to soldiers stationed at nearby Fort York, a practice that was technically illegal at the time. On the night of January 2, 1815, 2 soldiers from the fort allegedly visited the lighthouse to purchase alcohol from Radlmuller. According to historical accounts, a dispute broke out between the lighthouse keeper and the soldiers, and Radlmuller was brutally murdered. The soldiers, panicked after the crime, are said to have dismembered Radlmuller's body and buried his remains in various locations around the lighthouse grounds in an attempt to cover up the murder. When Radlmuller was reported missing, a search was conducted, and some of his remains were eventually discovered. The 2 soldiers were arrested and put on trial, but due to a lack of evidence, they were never convicted of the crime. The unsolved nature of Radlmuller's murder, combined with the gruesome details of his death, has led many to believe that his spirit, like the Ghostly Bride, may haunt the lighthouse to this day. Some visitors have reported seeing the figure of a man wandering the grounds of the lighthouse at night, while others claim to have heard his footsteps inside the tower. Paranormal investigations and modern-day sightings. In recent years, the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse has become a popular destination for paranormal investigators and ghost enthusiasts. Several ghost hunting groups have conducted investigations at the site, using tools such as EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and EVP, electronic voice phenomena recorders, to capture evidence of the supernatural. While some investigators have reported unusual findings, such as unexplained temperature drops or strange sounds, the lighthouse's most compelling evidence comes from the numerous eyewitness accounts that continue to surface. Visitors to the island, particularly those who visit the lighthouse at dusk or after dark, frequently report strange occurrences, including the sighting of shadowy figures near the lighthouse or the sound of footsteps climbing the tower stairs. The lighthouse has become a part of Toronto's folklore, with ghost tours and historical reenactments that bring the stories of the Ghostly Bride and John Paul Radlmuller to life for modern audiences. Despite its long history and the renovations that have taken place over the years, the lighthouse remains a place where the past feels ever present, and the boundary between the living and the dead seems particularly thin.